Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Girl, Why Not You? I, of course, am your host, Jennie Blackwood, and today's conversation is about redefining success. Because we talk a lot on the show about building a life you love, going after more, and creating something meaningful. But what happens when you've built it, lost it, rebuilt it, and then lost it again? What happens when life keeps stripping away the things you thought meant you were successful until you're finally forced to ask yourself, what actually matters to me? Today's guest, Ebonie Allard, has lived through every version of success, from homelessness to penthouse living, and everything else in between. She's a master coach, facilitator, and guide who helps people understand themselves more deeply through human design, gene keys, astrology, shadow work, and embodiment. But what makes this conversation so powerful is that she doesn't just teach transformation. Guys, she's lived it. And what she's discovered might completely change the way you think about success, safety, and identity. Ebonie, I'm so glad you're here.
Welcome. Well, thank you for welcoming me. What an intro. You know, when you listen to an intro and you're like, oh, my life.
That's me. I think I'm starting to become known for my fabulous intros, so people get excited for those. I'm glad you love it. I am so happy you're here today. I'm really excited for you to share with us. You've been through a lot in life, and you're somebody who has not let the hard times keep you down. You've rebuilt. You've realized that there's different versions of you, different versions of success. So I'd like to start here because while the work you do now is incredibly powerful, it's also deeply rooted in your own life experience. So for someone listening, can you share a little bit about your journey and what shaped the way you see success and also identity today?
Yeah, so I was born in 1980. And at that time, things like astrology or working for yourself or having a name like Ebonie, none of these things were cool, right? Now it feels really different. And now it's like everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to work for themselves. Everyone wants to have an unusual name, or it isn't that odd or different or any of those things. But way back then, it really, really was. And I was fortunate enough to grow up with parents who were super ahead of their time and who were into philosophy and spirituality. And we would have conversations about critical thinking and independent thought and creativity, like all of the time. And rather than making me feel like my parents are so cool, I just felt like all I want is to blend in. All I want, like success to me at that point was, how can I get a normal job? How can I blend in with everybody else? How can I look more like other people? How can I sound more like other people? How can I just sort of, that's what will make me feel both safe and successful. And so I pursued a career in the TV industry because my talents are all creative, but I wanted something that was like, okay, how do I take my storytelling, my creativity, my need to like not sit in a box at a desk and be still all day.
Nobody wants that.
I'm just unemployable, right? I've never had a proper job. So this is the beginning of it. I got my first job at 14 in a clothes shop because I wanted some ridiculous shoes. And my dad said, I don't have to give you money for them. Like I have to keep you clothed. I have to, feed you, house you, but I do not have to buy you platform shoes like that. If you want them, you need to have a job. And so I went into a shop and asked for a job and they told me, you're too young. And so I said, if I can sell like 3 things in the next half an hour, will you give me a job? And he smiled at me and I did.
Oh my gosh, I love that story.
Okay, come back on Saturday, I'll pay you cash. And so it's always been like that. I've always been somebody who needed to find my own path, but also didn't want to stand out, didn't want to be too different, didn't want to have my head above the parapet because that felt really dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That is like the coolest story. I love that because it shows it from when you were a little girl, I mean, 14 years old, you were determined, right? I think determination is huge when obviously it comes to building your own life. And obviously you're going to talk about that a lot today, but that says a lot about you as an individual, excuse me. You were like, I'm getting these shoes, dang it. And dad's like, ugh, then figure it out, girl. But I kind of love it when parents do that because it's forcing you to figure out what you're good at. How are you going to make this happen? You're left with your own devices instead of being handed everything all the time, which really helps to shape you as you grow. So okay, so you get this job. You're 14. This guy's all right. You can sell here. I like this. So then what happens?
Well, you know what? That grew. I started to get a reputation as being someone who was responsible and trustworthy. And the bit that was boring was sitting in shops.
Yeah.
So I worked, I guess, several summers. And by the time I went to university, I no longer sat in the shop and sold things. I actually had collected a whole bunch of different independent stores in the town where I grew up. And I would open each one of them. And then I would go and sit and work in one. And then I would close and like cash up for each one because all of the owners could then hire like other people who weren't necessarily as good, or they didn't have to have an assistant manager for every single shop. And I don't really know how that happened. I think I just responded and was like, I need extra money. By this point, I was also making handmade cards. This was before the internet. And so do you remember, maybe you don't, magazines, like craft magazines where you had the order form in the back.
Yes. Oh, you're just giving me some nostalgia.
I remember ordering this card is blank for your own message sticker and those little cellophane wrappers. And then I do like in the evening after school, and I would make cards and have like this little factory in my living room utilizing my siblings and like pack these cards up, and then again I would take them to a independent store, an art store in town, and I would sell them wholesale to them, and then they would mark them up and sell them on. And I guess by the time I was 18 and ready to move to London, to the big city, to go to university, I had quite a lot of different experiences of making my own money and being my own boss. Yeah.
What a great thing to have that young in life. You know, so many people are like barely ready to get kicked out of the nest. They're like, you want me to do my own laundry? You know, what are you talking about? Or like, they'll never feed themselves again. They're going to live on Little Caesars pizza and God knows what else, Topper Ramen. But you were like preparing yourself. You didn't realize what you were doing at the time. At the time, what were you motivated by? Was it money that was your motivation? Or like, what do you think kept you in business?
This is so interesting because money has never been my motivator. Now, it's always been a should, and we can come back around to it. And every time I think money is the motivator, everything falls apart. Freedom has always been my motivator. I was 7 years old the first time I ran away from home because I thought I could do a better job without them. And but, you know, at 17, 18, when other people are like, how do I boil an egg? How do I do my own laundry? I was like, I am so out of here. I'm so ready to go. I was just fiercely independent. And, you know, for those who do any human design, I'm a manifesting generator. And so you can see these things, right? Like multiple different skills, moving fast, quite independent and really driven by liberation and creativity. And all of that is so obvious. And obviously at that time I knew none of those things. And this is why I find like human design at this time is so helpful for people who are parenting young people who don't have that same thing. You know, these days, I don't think enough parents let their kids fail. And it is so important to fail young. You know, when you fail at 14, when your business doesn't work at 16 or 17, you get over it. Yeah. And it's not the end of the world. And it means that by the time you do leave home and you are like in another city or you're on your own or your rent depends on it, you've got some experience under your belt, you know?
You need that. You need that experience. Otherwise, it's like it is. You just feel like you're so overwhelmed. You're living in chaos. You have no idea how to start. But yet here you are, like when you're going to college or university, you're at this point where like you need to know how to function as an adult. I worry about one of my kids. She is amazing. She's 14, but she's like, still nervous to go ask like the guy at In-N-Out Burger to order her own food. And I'm like, girl.
So here's the thing, right? Like when you are 14, you can get away with asking for help. You can ask seriously cheeky questions and people want to support you and they like love the like audacity of you.
Yes.
Roll on 25, 30. People are not so keen, right? One of my biggest successes was making mistakes really young and what I used to call blagging it, right? Like just say yes and figure it out later. You know, I would go home to my dad and I'd be like, I've just accepted a job that I need to be driving for. Help.
We're going to need to make this work. Okay. Yeah. That is, putting the cart before the horse is oftentimes what you have to do as an entrepreneur, even when a young entrepreneur, because you have to, everybody thinks, oh, I have to have it all figured out before I start. But that's really not the case. You have to throw yourself in the freaking deep end to get that experience and to even understand what is about to unfold in front of you. You're never going to be prepared, right? You're never going to be prepared.
And so, even if you think you are prepared, everything will change. Like everything will change.
Yes. And like surprise.
The world changes. You can't predict other people's responses. You know, like you have to be ready for anything. And the only way that you get ready for anything is to not take it so seriously and see it as an adventure and a game. And that isn't to say it's not, that people can't get hurt or that it's not real life. You know, honor your commitments, look after your clients, do what we said you were going to do, but don't take it so seriously that you won't have a go at something. Yeah. And I think this balance between like playfulness and ego is a really interesting one because one of the other things that I think I've been very successful at in my life is putting my hands up when, I said I could do that. Turns out, actually, like people need to know that sooner rather than later. Yeah. And often people are so scared, oh, I'm going to look bad, I'm going to look stupid or whatever. And a lot of the mistakes or losses in my business came from not saying soon enough, either I can't or I don't want to do this anymore. And not following that little nudge that's like, you should say no now, or like you need to change course. And it's the sticking and staying too long that has led to mistakes and me losing reputation or something bad happening.
Yes.
And so I really like actively encourage people to, it's running a business is the best personal development work you will ever do in your life.
Very true. Very true. It's interesting you say that because there is, when you're an entrepreneur, you decide to go out on your own, start your own business. There is a lot of times where you have doubt, you're doubting, can I do this? Is this going to work? That is different from the red flags that you're talking about. Like red flags are like, ooh, I am pushing too hard for this and it doesn't feel right. Something's not working here. Like, I don't feel good about this. Like, it's not getting me the results. There's a difference between self-doubt and needing to manifest yourself into the place that you're meant to be within that business. But also, if you're right, there are certain things I've done in the past where I'm like, oh, I think this is gonna be great. And then I start kind of getting that like pit in my stomach where I'm like, oh God, why did I do that? And you're right. It's like a bad boyfriend, right? The more time you waste on it, the more time it keeps you from finding where you're truly meant to be. So I resonate with that a lot. So I'm very curious, here you are as a young child, your entrepreneurial mind is just on fire. You're doing the sales, you're doing cards, you're doing all that. You go to university. You mentioned that in your life, you've had success, you had to rebuild, all those things. So how did you go from like homeless? What got you to homeless? And then what got you to the penthouse?
Okay, so I did my degree. I actually, again, made some decisions there that are really critical to who I am as a human. I did things like wrote or very much supported my housemates in writing their final thesis essays, and didn't do mine until last. And everyone around me, like the people I had helped, got much higher grades than I did. And there's a part of me that felt like I should be getting these. Like, I wrote those, I did that. And this theme of being really generous and putting everyone before myself is a character trait and something that has got me into trouble multiple times. And part of my, what I would now call soul contract is learning to be more selfish, because I for the longest time, I really wanted to be anything but selfish. And the idea of being seen as selfish or anything less than generous meant that I very often didn't pay myself enough, didn't charge enough, etc., etc. But at university, I made a decision when I first found out I wasn't going to get the grades, that rather than spend the time redoing it or worrying about it, I would spend the time while I was still a student helping people who were like the bun to my burger. So weren't the same job as me, but would maybe want me again in the future. So my degree was in scenic art and theatre practice, don't ask, but I was working in theatre at the time, painting huge backdrops and fashion shows and learning to paint huge style stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I went and found all the people studying film, because at the film school, everyone wants to be a writer, director. And in the theatre school where I was, everyone wanted to be an actor. And so the art department, which is where I was and what I was doing, there were not so many people doing that in those places. And so I would make friends with all of the directors and producers and writers and say, can I help you make your film? Can I help you do this thing? So by the time we graduated, I had all of these contacts. And whilst all of my friends had these great marks, were walking around with degrees that were firsts or 2-1s or whatever, and I didn't have that. But I did have job offers in my pocket, and I went straight into earning money, straight into getting experience. And so my first career was in the film and TV industry in the UK, and I progressed very, very quickly from art department assistant right the way up to buyer and set decorator. So that is somebody who is responsible for everything that moves on set. And I managed massive budgets, and I got to shop other people's money. And you would get people also before mobile phones. It's a whole other way of doing things. So there was a lot of driving, a lot of logistics, a lot of last minute changes. And all of this was such good training, late nights, money at stake, angry people, clients who change their mind, all of that sort of stuff. It was such great practice for running my own business.
Yes.
But in 2007, there was a writer's strike in the States. And by 2008, there was also recession in the UK, but there was no new films, no new TV to produce.
Wow.
Because they'd had such a long strike. And what that meant was that anything that was getting made, the people who were doing art department for the big films like James Bond were doing TV shows. And so everyone further down had no work.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And I was 27, and I went from making 6 figures to making nothing overnight.
Oh, no.
And within 3 months, I'd spent all of my savings. And within 6 months, I'd spent all of my tax money. And then I got a massive tax bill.
Oh, my gosh.
And then both of my housemates, we were living in this beautiful place. We had a 4-bedroom, we had a spare room, we had extra, all of these things. It was such a glamorous lifestyle for our age.
Yes.
It felt amazing. But they both got made redundant. And I was like, don't worry, I've got credit cards. Everything will change soon. So in this place of I trust the universe, I trust the world, nothing bad can happen. And I just kept spending. And I kept spending because I was like, you've got to spend money to make money. You just got to invest. Millionaires are made in recessions, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
That is not what happened. What happened was they both went back to their parents. I didn't have that possibility.
Yeah.
I suddenly had a £20,000 tax bill, rent I couldn't pay, nowhere to go, and everything escalated incredibly quickly. And all of a sudden, and at that point, I was also like, do I start this other business? And so I had this idea, so funny now, for a virtual assistant business. Now, at that time, no one was doing it. Me and one other woman in the world, and she still runs her VA business now. We met on Twitter, and we're still friends now. But I started like the first or second virtual assistant business in the world for My Girl Friday back in 2008. And there may have been slightly local people, but that business, I started from a massive amount of debt, pretty much living out of my car and on my friends' couches, sofa surfing from one person to the next, meeting people in Starbucks and trying to convince them, no, you don't need me in your office. You don't need a bricks and mortar building. Like, I can do the stuff for you. And my target market was high net worth, time poor clients.
Yes.
And we did really, really well. But at that time, so I was kind of, doing a lot of pretending, holding a lot together mentally. And within 6 months, I had 17 freelancers working for me.
Oh my gosh.
We were winning awards all over the place, but I had no infrastructure. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, it was built to
kept saying yes to everything. And within 3 years, whilst there was a lot of money going through the business, I'm sure you know, as someone who has run businesses that scale very quickly, if you are not looking after yourself, if you've not got support, if you don't have any infrastructure, at a certain point, it all just goes bang.
Yes. 100%. When you're flying the plane while building it, it is really freaking hard. And it does. I mean, it can lead to all kinds of things. But that is a really cool story that you are like, the whole thing when you were working in the film industry, that was out of your control. And that sucks. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. That sucks when you lose something that wasn't even your fault. You worked hard. You were climbing the ladder. You were like living the life. And then before your very eyes, it imploded. And you're like, wait a minute. That can be so jarring. But that just goes to show that even when you have a job where you're working for somebody else and you're, hitting the clock, punching in and out, there is no guarantee. Right? There is no, like, you can do this forever just because you are an employee of this company now, right? So I think that the most incredible thing is that you were like, I'm like that too. Like, I in my brain, I'm like, it's okay. We're going to weather this storm. It's going to be fine. But it's like, not everybody can weather that. Everybody like kind of tends to freak out and go back to like what feels safe. But good for you. My gosh. And now look at virtual assistants today. I mean, it's a massive business. So you thought of this, you came up with it, you pounded the pavement even in a time where you're like, holy shit, I can't even pay my bills. My credit cards are maxed, all these different things. That is hard to do, Ebonie. Like, that is a very hard thing to do. And to be able to see past what you were like drowning in at the time, to be able to still stay positive and see something good coming that'd be hard.
I mean, I didn't do it well. Let's be honest. I really didn't do it well. And like, so when you have a lot of debt, that debt needs to be paid off. But what I didn't know at that age is that there are companies and people who buy debt. And this is a whole world. So it's a really, really interesting thing. I am a very emotional being. And so all I could see when I was in debt was that I was a failure, that I shouldn't have that I had made mistakes, right? Like, that I clearly was somebody who should be more sensible, that I shouldn't spend my money on other people, all of this stuff. I thought my accountant, I wanted to blame anyone. I was like, this is your fault because you should have said stop spending to me at some point. I mean, it wasn't, it was mine. I went to my parents, I will quote my dad again because some of these stories, like, he has been incredible and we've spoken about it since, and it was hard for him to do. But he said to me, I cannot help you financially, but I'm here for you emotionally. And at the time I was like, why do I not have everybody else had like a home to go to, a parent who would bail them out, like all of this stuff. And I felt like it was so unfair that I had nothing and no one.
Yes, that's really hard because you're seeing, like you said, your roommates that just got to run back to mommy and daddy, but they're not being taught anything valuable in those times other than, hey, if something goes wrong, somebody else is going to bail me out. So you had to fight.
I did. And I got really creative. And again, this is a theme that's like gone through my life. And so I actually got in touch with someone who I'd been an assistant for the year before. And he was somebody who was always getting himself into messes and getting out of them. And I was like, what do I do? And he said, I'm going to give you the name of someone and I'm going to give you the train fare to get there.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, okay. And so I got on a train and I went to Manchester, which is the other side of England. And I met this guy who said, because you have to be done in person, we're going to ring all your debtors, like all the people you owe money to. And they are going to say, you're going to let them know that you've got someone who's going to speak on your behalf. And then you're going to hand the phone to me. And I was like, so wide-eyed, right? So young, so naive. And he essentially got all of my debt, like, put on pause. He told them, he told them all these stories, like, I have nothing to pay. They can have £1 a month from me. He consolidated it into one thing, like all of this stuff. And I was just listening and learning, right?
You needed this guy at this time. Yeah.
Yeah. There is always a way out. There's always something you can do. And even if someone is telling you on the phone, you have to pay this or you'll never have a credit rating again. You'll never get a mortgage. You'll never get, all of this stuff that they used to scare me with.
Yes.
He really educated me around what is possible. And he said, listen, we're going to pay them a month. Every month you're going to pay them £1, but every 6 months you're going to ring them and you're going to offer them a full and final settlement figure. And I was like, what? And he was like,
what?
Eventually they'll sell it to somebody else and somebody will say, yes, I will take that for it. And so you just have to play the long game here. And again, like, one of the reasons I'm sharing this story is there have been so many times on my journey where I have thought I'm not successful because it's not been easy for me. I don't have the money that everybody else has. I don't have these things to show. And a few years ago, what I realized is I have been through every form of failure that exists.
Yeah.
And that is invaluable. You get coaches and mentors and people out there who have never had anything difficult happen, charging you a fortune to say, this is what I did and it will work for you, which is not true. And what's more helpful is to have someone who's climbed the ladders and then been down every snake who can say, hey, don't stress. There is always a way out of this. We can get creative,
Totally. Every failure, really, it stings. We hate it. It doesn't feel good, but it's a win because it's teaching you something, right? It is inspiring growth. I don't even care if it's, talking about my toddler that I'm like, hey, don't run down that hill. And then they biff and get hurt. But it teaches them in that moment, hey, I shouldn't do that again. Here's what I'm going to do differently next time. I'm going to walk, right? So I totally get that. I really want to jump into what you're doing now, this work with human design. I can tell you that as of probably 6 months ago, I'd never even heard of human design. And this was at a time where I was like flying the plane while building it, imploding mentally, was taking on way too much all on my own shoulders. It was a hard time. So somebody recommended like, hey, I know this person. She's a human design coach. I will say, I wish I'd met you because she was kind of just like a get in, get out type of person. I still feel like I have a lot of blanks left to fill, but I didn't understand that human design was even a thing. And I'm really excited for you to share that with everybody today because holy moly, when she gave me, I don't even remember what I was called. I'll have to look up and tell you offline. But as I was reading through my human design plan, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so spot on. So can you tell us, like, this is this work you're doing for people now. It's self-improvement. It's understanding yourself so that you can be your best self. What is human design?
Okay.
Let's start there.
So human design itself, like the traditional system, was synthesized from 5 other modalities back in 1987. So it's not that old in the grand scheme of things, but it comes from much older modalities. So it's made up from the same information as astrology, as what we now call the gene keys, but also that information is from the hexagram or the I Ching. Then there is information from the Kabbalah Tree of Life. Then there's information from the chakra system and quantum mechanics. And so the guy who synthesized it, who had an experience where this information came to him and he put it all together, is called Ra Uru Hu. And when we're talking about traditional human design, that you get a body graph, and this information shows and tells you how your aura is designed to work. Now, it takes the information from your date, time, and place of birth, and it also takes information from 88 days prior to that. Now, in human design, we've got your mind, and the same information as your astrology, but then also your body. We've also got the vehicle information, and or your unconscious. And this is really fascinating, because when we have the information of them working together, we can really start to see, oh, these are the things that I think about, but these are the things that happen around me that I'm unconscious of, or that happen without me bringing attention to them. And because it's based on a gene level and right into the cells, it can be really helpful for understanding your health and how your body is designed to work and how your energy is designed to work and all of those things. So human design itself is the science of differentiation, and it explains how your aura, your energy field, right, your electromagnetic field, interacts with life and with other people.
So it is so wild too. And I really want to nip something in the butt real quick. For anybody listening to this is like, oh my God, what is this, foo-foo, hocus pocus? It's not. It is wild.
So I'll tell you why it's not, and I will do it really, really quickly. The moment that you were born, and we can all agree, before we were born, we were energy, we were matter, we were just energy, right? But the moment we were born, we turn into matter, into physical matter. And so this is quantum mechanics, it's quantum physics. So the reason that code of your date of birth, time and place is so important is it's coded with all of the information about what is going on in your cells and your incarnation intentions and all of your ancestry. It's absolutely fascinating.
It really
in
is.
The same way as I can't explain time.
Yeah.
I can't explain how it works, but I know that it works. I then also use gene keys, which are the gates in human design. And this is the hexagram or the I Ching. And this is about frequency. So we live in a field of potential from what is called our shadow. And then in this modality, we also have a gift frequency and the siddhi frequency, which is like the highest expression, the love expression, or the highest vibe, the highest frequency of this. And it shows you exactly what your specific shadows are, what your specific gifts are, what your specific full potential is, and the positions of that. So when I look at someone's chart, I can tell them their brand message, their purpose, the culture that they create, and what is going to bring them stability or not. And why this is so fascinating is what the sphere that we have that's called the stability sphere in my chart is gate 47, which is to do with transmutation. And in order to find stability, you have to alchemize shit into gold. And when I understood that I'm never going to find stability in the same way as everybody else, that my stability comes from recognizing, oh, look, everything's changing. It's time to transmute it. It will go to shit, but then it will turn into gold.
Just now have to wait.
I can see that. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I've seen it happen enough times in my life for me to be like, well, it's not wrong. Like that is my experience. So the first thing that happens when you have a reading with someone who knows what they're doing is that it is affirming. Yes. Now, I've had people who feel disempowered. I'm like, if you've ever felt disempowered by an astrology or a human design or a gene keys reading, go to somebody else, because that is not the point. The point is for you to be like, whoa, you should feel validated and self-affirmed. And then we can go deeper and really help you to let go of everything that is not yours, everything that is a distraction. Because everything that you did incarnate for, everything that you are going to be the best at in business, in relationships, the specific channels that you've got, all of that is coded in there. And as you can tell, I'm really I love it because it saves people years of time.
Yeah. I love your energy behind it. Like I said, and not to knock anybody, but the person I did it with was just kind of like blah. And there is a lot of different facets to it where if you don't have somebody who can explain it well to you, it might go over your head. But I mean, there was things that I learned about myself that had always been there, but I couldn't identify it until I went through this. And it was like one thing I forget. Is there one called like a manifesting fire starter or something like that?
So there's a manifester or a manifesting generator, or a generator, reflector, or projector. So there are 5 types. So you are probably either a manifesting generator or a manifester.
Yeah, I think I'm a manifesting generator, but I'll have to get back to you on that one. But it was basically like, hey, you are always going to love to start businesses. You're going to be amazing at starting businesses. You're going to have success from that. However, I'm kind of a love them and leave them person. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this started. I'm going to make this amazing. But then I want to be like, boop, hands off. Somebody else take this over. And now you run it. I'm not the one that wants to be in like the day to day and all the things like that is not who I am. But when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that is so me, but where I make myself miserable is when I do try to DIY everything myself, when I try to make myself wear all the hats. And I realized, oh my God, I'm literally going against my human design. And that's why it always feels so like, like I don't want to be here. Although I want the business to run and I want it to have the success that I envision. So that was one key piece that I was like, wow, just even understanding myself better and knowing that I can get a business to a certain point, but then I have to find the right people to take it over and do the day to day. So that was cool. So that's like one thing I learned, but I know that I left it going, especially after like reading my packet that I received. I was like, everybody should do this because one, I don't think it's like something that's super well advertised. It's not like, go get a tarot reading. People don't know that this is a thing, but it is truly creepy, eerie, chills, how accurate it is.
Do you know the piece of feedback I get the most? So I have different offers, but my core live offer is called Embody Your Design, right?
Yes.
And the key piece of takeaway and it's one of those things that just, it's so trite, but it's so true. They go, oh my God, it's all just written here in black and white.
Yeah.
Like what? It really is. There's nothing like, for a million years, the online business world, the business world, all of it felt like, if I can just figure out the thing that I don't know that everybody else seems to know, then I'll be successful.
Sure.
And, now we call it kind of smoke and mirrors, but like I genuinely believed there was something, and I spent so much money with mentors and coaches and courses and all sorts of things because it was like, if I just find the right business model, if I just find the right mentor, if there's one more piece of information that is going to make everything make sense to me, and then I can be successful.
Right.
The truth is, you don't need any of that stuff. You just need to know you and how you work. And when you understand how you work, then we can make the business fit you. We can make success fit you, right? All of that sort of stuff. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And I definitely wish that I'd known and trusted that earlier.
Yeah.
And it's all perfect and we get the experiences that we need, and I'm really glad that I found that kind of trust and confidence in myself now.
For sure. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think it's something, you don't even have to be somebody who wants to start a business, like even just your life. I think a lot of us desire control over our life, right? That makes sense. And so for me, it kind of gave me a better sense of control. Like it made me be like, okay, if I just do this differently, if I understand myself better, it feels good. So for people listening here today, how could they work with you? how could they understand their human design? What does that look like? Because let me tell you, everybody, do this for yourself. Really. Like, I would be shocked to my core if you walked away and been like, that was a waste of my time. Like, truly, I think that this is something everyone listening to this should do, invest in. It's about your own growth, right? Self-improvement, understanding yourself. So, Ebonie, tell us, how can people work with you and what does it look like to do that?
Okay, so I'm going to make sure that you guys all have this link where you can get your chart for free. And you can get your human design chart and or your astrology chart, right? And then I've created, so one of the things that you said was, it's a lot of information. It is a lot of information. And what makes me a master at this is breaking it down into the pieces and the chunks that you need. You do not need to be an expert in human design. You need to be an expert in your design. And so it's my job and my design, by the way, to give you practical, implementable pieces of information in the right size chunks. So I have reading reports that are £7 each, right? And so the first one is the human design one. Then there is a Gene Keys one. Then there's an astrology one. I would just go, people then get confused. Just do the human design one to start with, right? £7. And what that will give you is information about your type, your energy, how to sleep, how you like all of those things. It's absolutely amazing. And then if you're like, okay, I want to take this a little bit further, then I've got the attributes reading report. And this is like 55 to 60 pages that tells you what you are made of, what is uniquely special and magical about you, what will make you what I call magnetic and unfuckable with, because then it will show you exactly where you wobble and like what stops that, like what you can rely on within yourself. Now, people always say, do you do live readings? And I'm like, you know what? I do reading reports first, because if you come and have a reading with me, I'll tell you a lot of information. We'll dive down rabbit holes. We'll tell stories. Even if we record it, you leave with a feeling, you don't watch the recording again, or you have to like go back in and listen to the whole thing, or you get a transcript and you never look at it. This way, you get a really beautifully laid out report that you can come back to, that you can like print out, have on your desk, like go back to again and again. It makes absolute sense. And then you can book in with me. And rather than me being a guru or someone you look up to starry-eyed, then I'm an ally and we can have a conversation about like what's going on in your life. Yeah. And how can we use this? Like, what is difficult about parenting? What's difficult in business? What's difficult about your health? Let's make it easy, because that is what I'm really, really great at. And then I have my main offer is called the True Self Trifecta, because this is all about you becoming full of yourself. And my thing is, who the fuck else should you be full of, right? You should be full of you. And women especially are often restricted, empty, not full, right? And I want you to be fulfilled, satiated, and full of your whole range, and to know that you have been designed perfectly. Yeah. And so within that, my first part of the 3 is called the value filter. And this is based on your values, but it bridges the gap between a traditional value elicitation and embodiment of that, and shows you exactly when you're not in your values and how to get back into them. Then we have Embody Your Design, which is the live element where we actually implement, and I run that in sprints, and I give you experiments to go out and do in your life and then report back on. And I give you theory, but I'm like, go break it and then come back and like talk to me about it. So I love that. And then if you want to learn more, then I have like my teach space, which is called Kismet Flicks, where I teach everything from shadow work to human design to astrology. The last 14 years worth of my courses are all in there. And what that means is that it's really simple, right? You can have all 3 or one of those parts. And then I do like bolt on one-off one-to-ones or long-term mentoring. If you're somebody who's like, I just want you in my pocket, you're amazing.
Yeah. Because it's not always just like hey, let's try this and here, I get all these answers and now I'm going to be perfect forever. Like, it probably does require some maintenance, like all things do, like watering the garden. So one other question I have for you is, I've heard through the grapevine that you can actually do a human design plan on your child, no matter what age they are, so that it actually can help you understand how to parent them specifically better, because no child's the same and siblings are not the same. So is that true?
100% true. And if you're not doing this, like, please do. Please do. So in the link that I'm giving you, which is ebonieallard.com/get chart, but I will put it in and make it really easy for you. And it's on anything if you find me anywhere online. You'll go in and you can do as many charts as you want for free. Okay. And you can then get these £7 reports. But I then have an offer that's like unlimited for £33. And I have my clients who have this open, like one window on their desktop where they're like, oh yeah, let me just run it through there. Oh yeah, let me just run. And they'll put anyone through it because it's so helpful to be able to see your child or your partner or this new person that you're about to bring into your business. And I ran a workshop last week called Magnetic and Unfuckable With. And I was saying to people, when you are being a really strong and clear signal of who you are, the right people, opportunities and situations are magnetized to you. They can't not be.
Yeah.
And then we did the workshop and I spoke for like 20 minutes and then I'm like really practical. I'm like, give me your chart, give me your chart, give me your chart. And so I do like chart reads, right? And every single person has the same gates as me, but in different places.
Interesting.
And that's because I'm such a strong signal of my gates, of these particular codes, that people are pulled into that. And it means that I can really, really help you with your experience because I know that code really inside out. It might be my sun and your moon or my sun and your Jupiter, but it means that I can give you examples and anecdotes and be like, this is how that feels. And then people are like, oh my God, yeah, that's so true. And it's so beautiful to see the evidence of a bunch of strangers coming into the room that I've never seen before. Some of them are like giving me their chart details. I'm putting it in. It's the first time I'm seeing their chart. And it's kind of proof, right? Because when we are our signal, we attract the exact right people to us and the exact right opportunities to us. And so everything I was saying of like, it doesn't have to be hard. There is no secret that you haven't discovered. What you really get to do is be yourself, listen to that body, like yes or no, or, learn your own authority.
Sure.
And then just enjoy your life.
Yes. Yes, just enjoy your life, people. So I'm here to tell you, if this episode spoke to you, if you've been holding on to an old definition of success or trying to force something that no longer feels aligned, which I think all of us are doing, let this be your reminder. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to pivot. You are allowed to build a life that actually feels like yours, the one you actually want. What a novel idea, right? And if you want to go deeper into this kind of work, obviously Ebonie is your gal, and I'm sure you could work with everybody in the United States as well, right?
I have clients all over the world. And I also work with people who want to add this to their offer. And so if you want to give all of your clients that come into your offer their own chart, we can do that too. Yeah.
That is so fun. I need to have you on in my my other business, my Cart to Cash Flow Academy. Have you come on and do this for my coaching clients, because I know every single one of them would absolutely love this. So let's all commit to really understanding ourselves better, our patterns, what alignment looks like for each and every one of us. So we're all going to connect with Ebonie. Everything will be linked in the show notes. And most importantly, guys, don't just listen to this and move on, because that's not going to do you any good. You're going to take one step, because the life that actually fits you is going to start when you choose it. So Ebonie, thank you so much for being here today. And everybody out there, let's align. It's not too late. We're only in almost April here. We have plenty of year left. Let's align. Let's be our best selves moving forward, because girl, why not you? Have a great day, everybody. If something in this episode made you sit up a little straighter or dream a little bigger, don't ignore it. That's your future nudging you. I'm living proof that you can start messy, start scared, start in the worst timing, and still create something beautiful. Thank you for listening to Girl, Why Not You? Now go take one small step towards the life you've been craving. Hit subscribe, leave a review if you feel called, and share this with someone who's ready for more.